I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
To the
of the
flag,
United States of
United States of
America,
America,
and to the
and to the
republic for
republic
which
for
it
which it
stands,
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 one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty.
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Madam Clerk, would you like to call the roll, please?
Councillor Edwards,
Present.
Councillor Hilton,
Present.
Councillor Perry,
Present.
Councillor Driggs,
Present.
Councillor Clark,
Present.
Councillor Cook,
Present.
Councillor DiMederos is absent.
On to the consent agenda.
Hello, Travis.
Pardon? Oh, is that Travis
It's
joining us?
Travis. Just checking in by phone. For some reason, my Zoom app and my online is not working. So, phone for me tonight.
That's okay. Well, we're glad to have you, Travis.
All right.
And so the clerk can also note that we're joined by Solicitor Marcello and Assistant Solicitor Travis DaCosta.
Hi, Mike.
And some of you may notice on your screen a face that's not familiar to you. That is our planner candidate. And so she's here so that you can all meet her and ask some questions as we have her contract. So welcome to Jennifer too.
Welcome.
Nice background.
Nice. Thank you.
Very nice.
Is at the beach.
At the beach.
Like Fogland.
Nobody's allowed to go there right now, so.
On to the consent agenda. We have just two items. The first are town council minutes. The minutes from the March 28th regular meeting, the March 28th executive session meeting, and the April 6th special meeting. And then item B, acknowledge receipt of reports. And that is the Planning Board Administrative Officer, March 2020 activities report. Would anybody like to remove something from the consent agenda? Yes, Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the entirety of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to do a roll call vote. Councillor Perry,
Yes.
is that a yes on approving the minutes?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Driggs,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
Yes.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes too.
I'm also a yes.
And John's a yes. We have public comments, which we allowed citizens to send in since we haven't quite figured out a way for public comment during a forum. However, all of the public comments that we have, which you should all have copies of, relate to an item a little bit further on the agenda. So if it's okay with the solicitor, we can bring up those comments when we get to that agenda item.
Yes.
And then moving on, we have 3 public hearings that are to be continued to the May 11th, 2020 meeting. First, the approval of the proposed amendment to the resolution for fines and fees for third-party billing. Secondly, an approval to submit to DEM the RIPD's small MS4 annual report, and finally a draft design study for the Mount Hope Bay Greenway project and approval to submit comments. So I think we can vote to continue all of these to the 11th in one fell swoop, Solicitor.
Question.
That's fine. I just want to explain for those who might be watching, I know the council is aware of this. We are still operating under modified Open Meetings Act rules through executive order of the governor. One of those rules is that we're allowed to attend meetings electronically like we're doing. However, those items which actually require a public hearing, we still have to allow the public to comment on. Since all these items on the agenda would require public comment, we haven't yet figured out a safe and technological way to do that. We're moving everything to the date as indicated. However, some good news, because this seems going to be lasting a little longer than we expected. On a call today with the governor's office, we're waiting for some guidelines and some modifications to that rule that will allow us to perhaps have public comment in a different manner. So anyway, so until we get those guidelines, that's exactly what we're doing today.
Madam President?
Yes, Nancy.
Just a quick question. At this point, does it look like May 11th will be a go to have a public, or we may find that we still have to continue it and hopefully with electronic means of doing it?
At this point, it's a fair question. I don't know the exact answer. That's our next May meeting apparently. So we're waiting for some guidance, and hopefully, maybe things will be loosened by then. We just don't know. But, at some point, we're going to have a public hearing on some of these items because we're going to have a backlog. And hopefully with the governor's office and some guidelines from the attorney general's office, we'll be able to move some of this stuff to the regular agenda so we can, move it off your docket.
This is Donna.
Question.
May I ask a question, or am I cutting someone off?
John's got his hand up first, so let me.
By all means, Councillor Cook.
Okay, nope, then go ahead, Donna.
Okay, even though it's supposed to be May 11th for the, I just have a question for the approval of the third-party billing. I thought we had spoken about this before, and as it's put off, and I didn't realize it had to be a public hearing, we're not collecting any fees, right? Isn't that one of the problems?
No, Donna, that's actually not true. The prior billing, the billing that, going backwards, is all being billed at the rate that was set at the time. So
Okay.
yes, I do believe they are billing. We're looking, or the fire chief is looking to change the fees going forward, but they're billing at the old rate now.
Okay,
including
all
that
right.
backlog of
Thank
fees.
you.
That is correct. So our ordinance sets forth the fees. The fire chief asked us to modify them to reflect Medicare reimbursement fees, Medicaid and Medicare. And we haven't been able to do that because that does require a public hearing because it's in an ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to make a motion to continue items 6A, B, and C, 1, 2, 3 to the May 11th council meeting.
Second,
And there's a second from Nancy Driggs. So roll call vote. Councillor Driggs,
yes.
Councillor Edwards,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes, as long as we are billing as of now, yes.
okay. Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. On to item 7, general business. Town Administrator Cotta, approval of appointment of Jennifer Siciliano as Town Planner Administrative Officer and ratification of a 3-year contract commencing April 27, 2020. Chris, I'll let you take it over.
So obviously this somewhat predated me, and there's been, obviously the advertisement and the interviewing, shortlisting and whatnot. I have spoken to Jennifer. We have gone back and forth about a contract. But just to remind everyone as to why we're going through the process, it's obviously the need is there. We've got the industrial park with 2 projects on the drawing boards already with the there's a self-storage facility, you've got bill sales, you've got actually our own issue with the recycling center. We've got all the issues with the administrative officer that needs to be done to assist planning. We've got 3 large solar projects. We've got the rewrite of whatever our solar ordinance will be. We've got our zoning ordinance that needs to be rewritten. And there are a litany of other issues that I'm sure that you're just as familiar with as what I'm getting familiar with. So the need to have a planner on board is actually pretty critical to us at this moment. I've looked at everything that came through the process of advertising, and I looked at Jennifer's resume, and we've had a short discussion, and we've actually come to terms on a contract. So I think it's prudent that we try to get her in here as quickly as possible. I know she would have some issues with trying to let her current employer, be let off gently.
So currently I'm the town planner of Foster, Rhode Island, for the past 2 years. And before that, I was a consultant for a planning consultant in Boston for a couple of years. And then I was 5 years as the city planner in Woonsocket. So I really know municipal planning inside and out.
This should be a great addition for us.
Yes.
And as you know, members of the council, we are currently operating on a volunteer basis with Sue, who's been doing a great job for us on a volunteer basis, serving as administrative officer and the chair of the planning board at the same time. We've got through some of the applications that were pending when I first got on the solicitor, but as the town administrator indicated, there are a number of issues, including conforming our zoning ordinance with the new comprehensive plan that is really a critical feature that we need to get moving on, and of course the waste facility and all the other issues with the industrial park. So I've worked with Jennifer in the past, and I'm very happy to even though I don't have a say in this, but I did want to let you know that I have full confidence that she'll be able to run the department, and look forward to working with her from a legal perspective.
Do any councilors have any questions that they'd like to ask Jennifer? No?
I just have a,
Yeah.
I have a question. It's Donna. I don't
Okay,
know, is
Donna, go
Nancy
ahead.
going to ask something?
No, go ahead, Donna.
All right. I was just wondering what the, it says, wrote successful awarded section 319 grants for, is it low income? I'm not sure what that
No,
means.
that is impaired waters. So what I did is I did low impact development ordinances for a group of towns in Rhode Island. I mean, in Massachusetts. That's
Okay.
previous to Woonsocket. I worked in as a regional planner,
Okay.
22 communities in Fitchburg.
What is that for, Jennifer?
It's for impaired waters. So it was an EPA grant and wrote low impact development ordinances. So it would be like requiring swales and rain gardens for new subdivisions. That's basically.
By the way, on those 319 grants, one of the things that we've talked about with DEM, if we have the capacity to write a grant, is that the landfill closing might be a prime candidate for a 319 grant. We've just never had anybody to be able to do it. But we certainly have a number of places in town that would be good candidates for that kind of EPA funding if we could do some grant writing. Yes, Councillor Edwards.
Well, if it's acceptable to the discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Jennifer Siciliano as town planner / AO and ratify the 3-year contract commencing April 27th, 2020 and ending in April 26th, 2023.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
That was Mr. Perry. So
correct.
I'm going to take a roll call vote again. Councillor Clark,
Yes.
Councillor Driggs,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes,
Councillor Edwards,
Yes.
Councillor Cook.
It's a yes, but I want to ask one question.
Okay.
Since Jennifer
Can we finish the roll call first, and then you can go back to your question? Is that okay?
Okay,
Unless the other council-
yes,
Thank
but
you.
I
We're not
have a
supposed to interrupt-
question.
So
Sure, we're
you're-
not supposed to interrupt the roll call. Thanks.
Okay. So you're a yes, and I am a yes. So that's all 6 of us. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you.
It's not really a question. I guess it's a request. The request is that I'm looking at this confidential report, which I don't think should be confidential. She's got very good qualifications. I think it should be public. We are hiring her, and people are going to pay her salary. People should see her credentials. That's all I have to say about that. I'm just asking.
I think what Donna's referring to is that the resume is stamped
Yes.
confidential. So I will leave that to Chris and Mike. Is it?
Yeah,
And-
well, we can discuss whether or not we, with the applicant's permission, we could obviously release that, obviously redacting some of her personal information that may be on there, but it's that standard practice. If someone were to make an APA request for her resume, I would release it again with that redaction. But I'd like to talk to Jennifer about that before we actually do that.
Okay.
All right, that's my request.
Thank
Thank you.
Jennifer,
Thank you, everyone.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Glad
sure
to be-
Chris will be in touch with you shortly. So
We'll be speaking shortly.
congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
And welcome to the new world of hiring through
welcome
Zoom.
aboard.
Oh,
Okay,
Quick and painless.
all right.
Thank you, Jim.
So moving on to general business item B, Councillor Edwards' discussion and vote to implement an amnesty trash program, allowing each resident to put out one non-town bag of trash for collection each week and encouraging people to continue to put out recycling with their trash. And before we take this up, I do want to point out that we did get some public comments. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 comments in favor of some sort of trash thing. I'm not sure whether or not reading the comments, some of them seem to indicate just a complete moratorium on the bags, but I think in general, there are 8 comments here from, and I don't know, Mike, we haven't done this before. Should I read the names or does it, how do we acknowledge, what's the best way to acknowledge these?
If it doesn't take too much time, you could just acknowledge if they're all the same, just put their name on the record. That's fine. They would have to give their name on the record if they were at a meeting, so that's fine.
So we have letters in favor from William and Christine Strachan, Carol and Richard Guimond, Julie Baker, Timothy Connick, Nancy Carrero, Jew-Marie Reynolds, Jen De Silva, Paul Buenavino, and there is one letter in opposition from Peter Moniz that is fairly lengthy and does list some of his concerns that we may actually have to address in this. So I did want to acknowledge that public comment. You should all have copies of it and should have received it today from Jeannie. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. So as I'm sure the rest of the council has received numerous emails about the lack of availability of the trash bags. I know I have received some personally from people that I've known for a long time in the form of text messages and direct emails and phone calls. And it seems that with everything going on, it's tough, A, for residents who are under quarantine to get the bags. And it's tough, B, for those residents who are able to go out to purchase the bags to do so and comply with the social distancing policies. And there's a lot of people who are worried about their own health, as they should be, with everything that's going on. So what I wanted to propose is essentially the same amnesty program that we execute every single year at the holidays. Given the volume of gifts that people get and the packaging materials and such that come through the holiday times, where we allow at least a portion of the trash to be put out, and to do so until the expiration of our existing emergency orders on May 13th, I believe is the date when all of these are set to expire. So I wanted to bring this before the council, see what the appetite was to do something to assist our residents so that they can continue to maintain their social distancing policies, but we also don't do irreparable damage to the bag program and also the recycling program. So I wouldn't be looking specifically for a complete and total amnesty on the town bags, because I think that would be detrimental to our recycling program. And we want to make sure that people are still utilizing recycling, because as we've seen in the past, before this program was implemented, when there is no requirement for a town bag, the recycling numbers are significantly lower than when we had the bag program implemented. So we want to continue to embrace recycling, but we also don't want to hurt residents at the same time. So that was the premise behind this. My initial thoughts, again, would be either 2 regular size trash bags or 1 contractor bag that would be allowed. And then we'd also issue a statement encouraging people to continue to participate in recycling, so that we can make sure that the recycling is not ending up in the general, solid waste trash flow.
I take it that, Councilman, that's in the form of a motion.
So yes, I will make that in the form of a motion for 2 regular size trash bags or 1 contractor bag.
And is there a second?
I will second it for the sake of discussion.
Thank you, Joe. Comments from councilors? Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the motivation behind it and the concern that we're all feeling about having to go out in public. I for one was not aware of the fact that people couldn't find bags, but I'll accept that as true. I guess my two concerns are, one, what if this gets extended beyond the May 13,
Eight.
whatever the need for it. And secondly, just I guess I was really struck by several things in Peter Monas's comments that some of them I hadn't even thought about. Are we going to leave ourselves open to other people, people putting recyclables in this bag, B, many people just put out one bag a week. So in a sense, you will not be having any pay-as-you-throw bag during that week. And as you know, there is a huge concern about raising the funds to do the landfill or close the landfill. And there was something else. I guess those were it. I understand the motivation. I think it's lovely. One thought that occurred to me, would there be a way that there could be, somehow a volunteer program to get bags to people who really are nervous about going out, but that might be too hard to manage. Those are some of my concerns.
Anyone else?
I had a concern.
Joe.
As I mentioned to you about 4 weeks ago or so about this, mine's a twofold. Mine is concerned about people that are out of work and don't have money to get out and buy bags. I mean, I know it's not a lot of money, it's $10, but $10 to some people is a lot of money, especially, if they're the only supporter of the family. But on the other hand, I worry too about people putting out recycling and trash. And also, what about businesses? Right now, we don't take business trash, but who's to say that a business could just throw some bags out there, like on Main Road? I know there are some on Main Road that are right close to residents that they could throw their trash out there, and we'd be picking up their trash along with the residents' trash. So mine's kind of a devil advocate, I guess. I'm concerned about the taxpayer and the people that can't afford to buy them and that should stay home so they abide by the social distance thing. But on the other hand, I worry about recycling and stuff. So I'm kind of like in the middle of the road on this one.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, let me get some clarification first of all from John. I think you're saying that you're proposing that they put out one non-town bag per week. What if they have more than one bag?
So just to address that, again, this is mirroring the amnesty program that we implemented after the holiday season. So if you have more than, the single town trash bag, you would have to use the town bags, right? I don't want a complete and total removal of the system. I think that the system is in place for a reason. We need to have this in order to promote recycling and make sure that we're funding the landfill. So for those people who are heavy users of the curbside pickup, there will be, they would still be required to, potentially purchase some bags. But my main concern and why I think the reason why we need to have some sort of an amnesty program in place like we did, like we do annually after the holidays, is because we have residents who are elderly, who cannot get to the store, right? Because they're in the high risk category to go purchase bags. We have, families, somebody who may be out of work. We need to do something to help support them. And more importantly, this will open up the ability for people who, may bring their trash straight to the dump to be able to put something out on the curbside and avoid having to go through the interaction at the landfill and put our town employees potentially at risk. So the idea would be that we would have, a set number that we would pick up, again, like we do every year after the holidays, but that, it wouldn't be a complete and total moratorium on the program. So kind of a compromise.
Well, so they have to have one red bag out there, and then they can have as many non-red bags as need be. beside it?
No, the
No,
other
no.
way around. They would be allowed to have either 2 normal size bags or 1 contractor bag, and then any additional trash would have to be red bags.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's my thoughts are that as far as getting these bags, there's 2 things going on, I guess. Some people don't want to go into the stores. So this doesn't really solve that problem. You're still requiring them to have a red bag out there. I think for those people that absolutely don't want to go in the stores, there can't be very many of them, because I know, people still go to the markets, people still go to the coffee shop, people still go to the liquor store and whatever else. So I think there's probably a very small number who absolutely won't go into a store and get a red bag, and maybe we can provide for them somehow. Put out a memo or whatever that they can have the DPW deliver a bag to their house, or police deliver a set of bags to their house, which would solve that aspect. The other one I'm hearing is that the stores don't have the bags, or they're putting them behind the counter. I guess because people are coming in and buying, 2, 3, 4 sets of bags at one time, where so obviously they're hoarding, and the store owners, want to kind of try and do their best to prevent that. I don't know what we can do about that, except again, tell store owners that, it's 1 per customer. And if a customer comes back the next day and buys another set of 10, well, that's, you can't really really can't enforce that. But I think if we could notify the stores to have the bags out there, and at least encourage customers to buy 1 set of 10 or whatever the case is, during that particular visit to the store, and try and monitor it just to that extent. So those are my thoughts. So I think basically it's a good idea, but I think there has to be some other action here to take care of the few that absolutely won't go into a store to get bags, and get the stores to, support this program, and, in these difficult times.
May I ask Chris, I think that Chris was going to talk to the DPW director in the stores and sort of sort this out as to whether or not, are there shortages of bags out there, or what exactly is going on? I mean, I have to admit, the places where I get my bags, they always have them, but maybe, I don't know if that's true everywhere.
Because there was so much controversy, especially on social media, about getting bags, we actually did a review. We contacted every one of the vendors that we have listed about their bags. One area where we did have a problem was the new Walgreens. They, as of today, they do carry the bags, but they were not carrying them up until this week. Every one of the vendors did have bags. So to check, we contacted our supplier who supplies each of the vendors, and they get regular orders that, and they're delivering. So there is not a shortage of them. A lot of the companies, though, we're putting them more secure places, like behind counters or in private areas. I know at Stop and Shop, they're out publicly where they used to be. You have to ask a clerk for them. I get the whole issue with this. It is difficult for those who are not shopping or having somebody else shop for them. But, we also recognize that people are shopping, they're getting food. And we also went 1 step further, that, to the extent that we have people who are getting food delivered on the state program, we're actually now providing bags with those services as well. So we've tried to do the best that we can, and we are trying to accommodate anybody who's quarantined as well. Director Rogers kind of explained to me today about what happens on the holidays. They do get a huge influx of trash as a result of that, but it's, and they do get very little recycling. So it is an issue that, I'll do what you guys want to do. I'm here to administer the programs you want. I'll give you the background the best that I can, but.
Councillor Driggs?
Just one thing that hit me and my husband. Probably a lot of the population that you're talking about who would have the, would benefit from this program. My guess is they are not the people who put out 3 bags of trash. It's probably 1 bag.
Like us, a little bag.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little in the middle in this. On the one hand, I do understand the frustration. It does seem to me that a part of the problem sounds like they haven't been putting the bags out in visible locations, and maybe people are going into stores and they don't see them. They're used to seeing them on a shelf someplace, and when they don't see them, they say, okay, they don't have them here, so they go to another store. I do think that for sure we should be talking to the merchants and saying you got to let people know where they are, and people may not at this point want to go to the courtesy counter to ask. They may not want to go interact with any more people than they have to. They just want to get in, get their stuff, and get out. I do think that for the people who are in quarantine, who are not shopping, as Chris said, I know now that if you are getting groceries, delivered through the state program, and EBCAP is doing that for us, they ask you now, do you need garbage bags? And they're, putting some in your grocery delivery, because if you can't get out to shop for groceries, obviously you can't get out the bags. And I do know that there are some people, including our own town administrator, who nicely on his own helped out a person who didn't have any garbage bags and drove them over to her house. And a few other people have been doing it. So I do understand it. I am a little worried about the volume of trash in the landfill, since we're trying to keep the landfill open as long as we can, and the level of recycling, because I do know that before we had the bags, even though we had the no bin, no barrel policy to encourage people to recycle, there'd be 8 bags of garbage in a recycling bin with 2 soda cans in it, because you had to put one out. So I do worry about that. I wonder if there is another way to solve this problem. I'm not sure I know what it is, but because if you can't get bags, maybe you need a whole roll delivered, not just to put out one, because if you don't have any, then you don't even have the one to put out. That's what I'm not sure of. Chris, you had your hand up there.
I do kind of agree somewhat with John. I think that if you just look at the 1 bag, it will help a lot. And the other compounding issue that has been coming about over a couple of days, especially in this announcement, even if you go into Massachusetts, you're supposed to self-quarantine now, simple shopping, doctor visits, and those kind of things, which is going to prohibit a lot of people from going over to Massachusetts. So and I know we have, some local places, but we also have some over the state line too, which will now take those out of the mix. So, like I said, I'll defer to you, but it is a very complex problem. I think it could be resolved simply with Johnson's, maybe 1 bag.
John?
So I gotta say here, I'm a little confused because, when all this came up and when I was receiving the influx of emails and calls and texts from our constituents, I thought about a way that we could sort of split the difference here. And I'm really confused what the trepidation is for the rest of this council, because, let's be honest, we're talking about a month here. Some of the comments that I've heard, is, well, if they have to, put out a non-town bag, well, then where they have to go to the store and buy new bags? I personally don't know a single person who puts trash directly into a town bag in their bin inside and then sticks it on the side of the road. Almost everybody that I know, my parents included, they have the regular roll of bags. You get 50 or 150 of them in a roll. You use those inside, and then you stuff 2 of them into one of the large trash bags and you put it out on the curb. So I'm confused by that. And then the other point that I'm really confused about is literally a week ago, we told people in this town they could not burn their yard waste in their own backyard because we were concerned about the safety and well-being of our town employees who may or may not have to show up to tell somebody they have to put out a fire in compliance with an ordinance which requires somebody to have the means to put a fire out nearby to where they're going to burn. So I'm really perturbed by this sense that there's a big issue with providing the residents of this town 4 weeks the ability not to have to put out one trash bag with the town's logo on the side of it, when we just went ahead and we made it more difficult, and we forced those residents who want to get rid of yard waste to go and interact with our DPW employees. So if the idea is that we want to protect our town employees and we want to protect our residents, then this is a no-brainer and a slam dunk to me. And beyond that, I don't know what else to say.
So I do have a question for John. We would have, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So you might not have a red trash bag at all. You can have one trash bag that is not a town bag in your recycling bin? Or do you have to have a red bag?
No, I don't think you have to have a red bag. If it's a single bag, if let's say a resident, only puts out one bag of trash a week anyways, then they put out one bag of trash. It doesn't need to be a town bag. I mean, I would be open to modifying it and say that we're not going to pick up trash unless there's a recycling bin next to it. The whole no bin, no bag setup that we used to do back in the early 2000s before this program was launched.
Well,
I think
that's actually still in effect. You still have, even with the red bags, we still have in effect the no bin, no barrel policy. So, so you have to put your recycling bin out, or your trash won't be picked up. So that would stay in effect. That is still there.
Yeah.
Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, just looking for clarification again. I think I understand it now, but I'd also like to suggest maybe a little bit of a modification here. I would suggest we require that they have one red bag out there, and then anything beyond that can be in regular trash bags, especially if a lot of people being home now, they're actually generating more trash. But I wouldn't want to abandon the red bag altogether because, it does serve a good purpose, and that, it's supporting the fund for the landfill, and it also encourages recycling. So I would suggest we require them to continue with one bag, and anything beyond that can be regular black trash bags or whatever. If you can have 2 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, as long as there's one red bag. That would be my suggestion.
I have to admit, I worry about that one a little bit, because I think that we could end up with an awful lot of trash in our landfill really quickly if we went that way.
I would say one large contractor.
Okay, this is Donna. I think the thought process from Councillor Edwards is partly on the right track. The other one is that it's getting a little off track where we're seems to be he's saying one bag, and then we're getting into lots of bags, and then you get into the problem of whose trash bags are there, because now the landfill money isn't going into the restricted fund, because now it could be even from another town. I mean, I can't put that aside, but I do know, I think probably the prudent thing to do, because people are complaining and you have to find a middle road here, is the one bag that doesn't have to be a town bag, and you have to have your recycle out. But any other more trash has to be in a red bag. It just has to be, because we're $1.5 million short of having the full amount we need to close the landfill. So that this, of course, isn't going to help the situation. It's just going to exacerbate. Sorry, it's a big word. So I think probably this is okay, but also I'm also hearing that there's really not a problem getting the bags once we get that straightened out from Chris. He's saying that he checked it all out, and I have to, he's been very diligent on a number of things I've asked him, so I can't say that he hasn't called, and that that seems to be just a Walgreens, but I go along with the one bag and try to help people out for a couple of weeks. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Okay, John.
I
I'll
have
let you finish
to
and then we'll go for a
Yeah,
vote.
I have to apologize because perhaps I didn't articulate it correctly. But what Councillor Cook just talked about is precisely what I made the motion for. So maybe I did a bad job articulating the motion. Maybe I was too wordy, but that's exactly what we're talking about.
I think you're talking larger bags, John, right?
One large or two small. I mean,
Yeah, the only thing, John, is Council President,
Yes, Joe, go ahead.
I would specify what size bag, because somebody could put a big, huge bag out there and then a couple of little red ones. So I would say like, what is it, a 40 gallon, or is that what the Tiverton bags are, 40 gallon, 30 gallon bags? And I would like to, add to something that, I agree with what Donna said and what John said. I think one bag would be good, but I should also think we should put out there, if people have a problem and can't afford bags because they're out of work, that they should contact us or reach out to get some help for bags, because I know there are people that are out of work that have mentioned to me about that.
So might I suggest, instead of confusing the issue of two small bags or one big bag, why don't we just say, what is this? Somebody must know this. The sort of hefty garbage can size bags, the black, the dark ones. How many gallons bag is that?
55, I believe.
Is that a 55-gallon bag? The one that goes,
The big, huge contractor black bags, usually a 55 gallon.
Okay, well, that might be a little too big, because that's
That's
sort
what
of
I'm saying. That's why I think you should see what ours are. I think ours are 40 gallon.
I think you're right, Joe.
Well, there's small and there's large. There's two different bags, and I don't know what the gallons are.
But I think the tip
I
bags
think
are,
we've got a visual aid coming in the background.
I think Councilor Cook is helping us out live.
I
Councilor
think,
Driggs.
Driggs, I'm sorry.
I think whatever the dark green, black, hefty and just say one. If people, because you could fit two smaller bags inside that, or maybe you only need one. But I think it might be confusing to say, well, two of this size, one of this size. If you just say one and you put a size limit on it, and you can put all the small bags you want inside of it. That might be a little cleaner and less complicated.
that's why I was specifying 40 gallon.
I'm actually going to look here right now at what a big hefty trash bag is. What size that is. Right?
Patricia,
Yes.
I was just checking. We use John Edwards is right. We first put him in this kind of a thing in our kitchen.
10 gallons.
Usually put two of these in the small size of the recycle. And this one of these is 15 gallon.
40 gallons.
It's pretty big and it stretches.
So the big hefty trash bags that's a 30-gallon bag.
This is 13 gallon.
The contractor bags are 55 gallons. Those are really big bags. Those are huge. So what if we say you can put one 30-gallon bag out? Anything beyond that has got to be in a town of Tiverton trash bag. And we remind people that the no bin, no barrel policy exists. And we'll see how it goes. If 2 weeks into it, the recycling is plummeted and now everything's going into the garbage bags, well then, we'll have to maybe think about it, but we can give it a try.
Okay.
John.
So I will accept that amendment request, so we don't have to vote on it and get another second. I will amend my original motion to be a single 30-gallon trash bag, and remind people that we have the no bin, no bag policy, And I also want to reiterate, and it may not have come across in my original motion, but the expiration of this amnesty was for May 13th. So 30 days from today.
Yes, with the caveat that I'm willing to try this, but if for some reason, you know, two weeks of garbage pickup, we have a problem, and it's not either people are putting out multiples of bags and Mika's going, we don't know what to do because there's, you know, 5 Glad trash bags out there, or the recycling has, you know, people aren't putting things in recycling. I do think we have to watch it. I mean, this does have a long-term effect on how long we can keep the landfill open. So I'm okay with that as a date. Yes.
Is there a
Joe,
second on that? There's a second on that, correct?
Joe, you
Not yet.
are my second.
you were the
Okay,
second.
could I just amend it or add something to it that we revisit it in 2 weeks at our next meeting? And if we feel that it's getting out of hand, we go back to the must have a town bag. Could we do that?
Sure, the council always has a right to revisit its actions, whether you make a motion or not, so that's fine.
All right, so I'll just leave it the way it was then, because
Okay.
you know, it could be a problem, but we can.
And we will need to speak with Mika about this, obviously.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay. Are there any other comments, or are we ready for a vote?
My only other comment I have, would it make sense just to do it for 2 weeks with a possibility of extending it?
I'm okay with going to when the declaration goes.
Okay.
But I think what we're sort of doing is letting people know that, you know, we're going to try it and we're going to hope it's going to work. But if it doesn't, or, you know, then we may have to rethink it. So I'm okay with John's date. And I do think that we need to let more people know that if you really are completely housebound, right now, that there are options for getting food to you, and there are options for getting trash bags to you. So if you're someone who truly cannot go out and shop right now, you need to let us know, because we do have options to help people who are in those situations. Okay, are we ready for a
move the
vote?
question.
Yes, Joe.
Move the question.
Joe,
Yes.
did you have a question?
Nope, I said move the question.
Oh, I thought, okay. So there's a motion and a second. Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
No.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Driggs,
Yes.
Councillor Edwards,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. So finally, the last thing is to have a little bit of an update on COVID-19 operations response plans from both the town administrator, the solicitor. We have a few things to sort of keep everybody abreast on, and I'll let Chris go ahead and start.
I'll give you a quick update as to, you know, where our first responders are. They're doing an excellent job. They're out there, that, you know, every day they're dealing with these issues. Chief Jones has been responsive to just about every item that we've had put before him. Right now, we've been working on a lot of harbor stuff and boats, as well as some of our DEM stuff. Chief Marlowe's got 5 guys who've been tested. 3 of them have come back negative. We're still waiting on results of 2. Again, they've put in operational plans to help mitigate any of the issues that happen as a result of this virus. We've been going through some very diligent cleaning processes. Some of the major issues we're dealing with right now are the day trippers coming in and out of town from out of state. And we're wrestling with how to mitigate some of those issues. We've been reaching out to DEM, trying to figure out what to do with their properties as well, and other communities. I know our neighboring community is at this spot now where they're going to start shutting down any of their parking for their facilities for recreation. I will tell you that about 75% of the usage right now is coming from out of state cars. And it's a problem. We're getting, you know, we're just going to have to wrestle it. It's going to get worse as the weather gets warmer. So we're dealing with those issues. One of the other big issues we're dealing with right now is there's 21 cities and towns that either have an FTR or an FTM. They all have the same kind of prerequisite requirements that we have as it relates to the things you have to do before you even have those dates or those referendums or those elections, whether it be the public hearings, whether it's advertising, whether it's how the municipalities and schools can either adopt or amend their budgets as alternate budgets. So there are varying timelines, and I've put together a memo today to the league as part of an overall digest of the majority of these cities and towns to get before the governor's office to find out, not about how we go about having a financial town referendum, but even if we could have one, how do we tax for it? I mean, how do we put the budget together for one, with all the information that needs to be put in from the state standpoint, and do it appropriately in accordance with our charter and the deadlines. But even if we set a budget, if they said that we could do like 25% of the current year, but we still don't have tax authority to do it without FTR. So there are, all the cities and towns are having the same issue, trying to resolve how it is that we go about doing this and doing it with proper information. Because we could put a budget together today based on what we know, but I think the state has better ideas about where they're going to be forecasting for revenue in the next fiscal year based on the losses of revenue they have right now. So we're wrestling with all these kinds of issues to try to formulate an appropriate mechanism to move forward so that we don't go through a morass of trying to tax people and then having to do a subsequent one later on when we get better information. So it's a little bit of a nightmare, but it's those kind of things are what we're working on. So I don't know, Mike, do you have other matters that I missed? That
I see Councilman Edwards has his hands up, so I'll defer to
Sorry.
him.
John?
So, Mr. Administrator, question for you.
Sure.
The governor, in her emergency declaration, closed all of the state beaches, and living down the street from one, I've noticed that there's been quite an influx of Massachusetts cars at Sepauwett
Right.
Beach. Now, I will say that after I saw that, Rhode Island DEM posted up a truck there and the cars all disappeared. But my question is, if the state beaches are all closed, how come Grinnell's Beach is still open? Specifically, given the fact that it would be very easy for us just to close the gate and lock it so that nobody can pull in there. Yes, I know we can, we can't stop the flow of people just, parking somewhere else and walking on, but I think it would be a lot easier for us just to lock the gate and leave it locked. So that way we're in alignment with the rest of the governor's initiatives, which is why we have so many of these executive orders that we passed.
That's we're getting complaints on both sides. If we were to close it, every time that gate's closed, we get bombarded with why is it closed? So the Grinnell's has been monitored. There's 4 cameras that are at Grinnell's that go to the police dispatch station. And while they have been monitoring, the issue has been the people going there and sitting in their cars. By and large, I mean, there are some people who've gotten out, but they're still within social distancing. And I'm not disagreeing that it's improper for anybody from Mass to come here, especially in light of the governor's executive orders. But we've tried our best to keep things so that people could have a venue to go to, I guess. But it's going to get worse and worse as the time goes on. I agree that we should probably look at closing that, or do we just put up signage? Well, that's what we're trying to work through now. There's a method that we can just put up signs to say that all our recreational facilities are open for Rhode Island residents or Tiverton residents. All out-of-state people can only come into this area for work purposes only, and they should not be here. There's a way that we can do this, and we're trying to work our way through it. It's it's not an easy task to do. I mean, we could lock that gate tomorrow. That's not an issue. I mean, and we probably look at that, but we've been trying to work around all of it just to make sure that we're not hurting everybody by doing it.
I think if I could
Go ahead, John.
just add one piece to that, my personal opinion, I think we just lock the damn thing because, if it would be unfair for the state beaches to be closed, yet the town beaches remain open. And then and by the way, residents of this town still know where to park. They still know where the side streets are. They still know how to walk down to the beach, right? Most of the people that use that beach that live around the area, they're still walking there anyway. So I think we just lock the gate and we at least tell the governor that we're complying with the same order that she put on all the state properties.
There are a number of other
This is-
communities who've also left their beaches open too. And it's, I, for Little Compton, we have the same issue down there as well. It's as the weather's getting warmer and warmer and more people coming here, it's becoming more and more of a problem. So I believe they're going to be shutting their beaches this week.
So John, one of the interesting things, and by the way, DEM closed the parking lots to the state beaches. They haven't closed the beaches, they've closed the parking lots, but those are a much bigger beaches that were drawing enormous crowds. A lot of people were turning up. So, and not everybody has closed the beaches. Interestingly, as Chris said, Grinnell's has had very little foot traffic. The vast majority of what happens at Grinnell's is people go sit in their cars and look at the sunset or watch the water, which is a pretty harmless activity. The place we're going to have a tough time with is Fogland, because there is no parking lot and there is no gate, and it's not going to be easy. And frankly, Fogland's had much more activity vis-a-vis people coming to windsurf and fly kites and fish and walk on the beach. Fogland's much more of an issue, I think, right now than Grinnell's is, although eventually they're, as the weather gets warmer, they're both going to get a little bit busy. And I think that, we're trying to walk a fine line here between finding a way for people to go outside safely and get a little fresh air and get away from the four walls in their house, but at the same time, not, put anybody's health at risk by having public gatherings and having too many people sort of out and about. But honestly, it's not just the beaches. I mean, if you look at the parking lots for some of the walking areas and the trails on a nice day, the parking lots have overflowed and they're sort of out into the street. So, I think we need to have sort of a comprehensive plan for this. That as much as we can allows our own residents to take advantage of the fresh air safely, but at the same time, doesn't create a health problem. But it's not entirely simple, and the facilities all aren't like Grinnell's, where there's a lot that essentially has a gate that you can lock. So it's a little tough, but I think people are working on it.
Tricia, this is Donna.
Yes, Donna.
I believe, as I've been down to Grinnell's Beach, I really don't see anyone getting out of their car. People need to do at least something. They're going to lose their mind. You have to worry about mental health too. Now you keep being more and more and more restrictive, and it becomes that you're just existing and not living. And this is what I see a problem with. Going down to the beach, reading in your car or watching the water changes your mind, especially for people that live alone. Or if you get out of the car, you go for a walk. You're not with anyone. I think it's getting a little unhealthy mentally for all the restrictions that are going in, where you're going to shut this down and shut that down. It's becoming very unhealthy on the other end for people to just be able to live a little bit. It's just going to cause so many problems with the isolation, the not being able to talk to anyone, not being able to go anywhere, the loss of freedom. It's very, very concerning. And a lot of times what you can do is, if you're alone, you go to the movies or you go out to, all of these things have stopped. And now you can't even go for a walk or park at Grinnell's to read a book or just get some fresh air. I think you need to step back a little bit, and you're going to have problems with people just getting so depressed. They got to get some fresh air. They got to be able to do something. I'm not for
I just want
closing,
to,
I'm not for closing Grinnell's Beach, not at all.
so we're not, on the agenda tonight is really just an update of what we've been doing. One of the issues that have been obviously come up has been the use of Tiverton beaches by Massachusetts residents. So we're not really making any decisions tonight on the beach. One, because it's not on the agenda, but this is the type of feedback I think that the town administrator and council president would like to hear as to some of the issues that we're dealing with and some of the options that we have. I will say that when a Massachusetts resident comes to Rhode Island to walk on the beach, they're technically in violation of the governor's order. And that's the problem that we're having. And, just as Tiverton people are upset that when they go to shopping in Massachusetts, they have to come back and self-quarantine themselves for 14 days. We have people who are, obviously violating the order. So this is it's a good discussion. But this is some of the issues that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis that we wanted to be aware. I don't think the county administrator is ready to take any action yet. But that's just one of the examples of some of the daily issues that come up. I do want to add, I know this is, I'm sorry, Mr. Cotter, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Another suggestion that was going to come up, that we've been discussing is maybe going to a town sticker on your car that, we could know who is a town resident versus who wasn't a resident. But what I didn't want to do is create a whole litany of work for the clerk's office or anybody else now with a whole bunch of people coming in to get stickers. It's, trying to minimize the amount of exposure to as many people as possible. But that's an alternative we should look at in the future anyhow. That was all.
I don't know. I just think all these stickers and I understand the reason for some of it, but it's becoming extremely restrictive and unhealthy for people to be so restricted, so limited, so isolated. So it's just so unhealthy to me. I can't go with it. What are we going to go to, ankle bracelets and wrist bracelets? I'm not for it. I feel like I'm in 1984.
I don't think that anybody in Tiverton is remotely considering that. And on the one hand, as frustrating as this is for everybody, I also think that first and foremost, saving people's lives is probably the most important thing. And, clearly, the death rate with this virus is not insignificant. So
You're going to lose lives by people by suicide if you keep on restricting them and they can't move and it keeps getting moved and moved and moved. You're going to lose people that way too. They can't even get fresh air. I have no problem with someone coming from Massachusetts, staying in their car and looking at the water at Grinnell's Beach. I don't have a problem with it. They never got out of their car. I
think the issue is Solicitor Marcello just pointed out is regardless of what we think, the fact is that the governor herself has issued an executive order that says if you are coming from someplace else, including Massachusetts, for anything other than work, you are expected to self-quarantine for 14 days. That's the executive order. And I get it. There's a frustration about, sort of shopping in Massachusetts because a lot of us are used to that. And that's where our doctors are and our veterinarians and, the supermarkets and everything else. On the other hand, Massachusetts, very unfortunately, is one of the states that is really struggling with this. I mean, today, Massachusetts, is third in the entire country in confirmed cases, only behind New York and New Jersey. That's a lot for a relatively small state when you think about it. So, Rhode Island is kind of in the middle of two states that have really significant outbreaks, one of which is Massachusetts and the other is Connecticut. So I think that I think people are just trying to do the best they can to keep as many people safe and to have this virus be contained as fast as that can happen.
Just think
you had your hand up, I think, a minute ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, I mean, so the picture that I just made my background, and I did this for a little bit of an effect because, you know, we're being told that nobody's getting out of their cars, but this was sent to me yesterday from a resident yesterday. This is Grinnell's Beach yesterday. These are mast plates and on cars in the parking lot with people outside of their vehicles.
And
So
they're near their car though, John. They're not like
now,
interacting.
the only point that I want to make is if they're coming to the state, the governor has said 14-day quarantine. We are ostensibly not complying with the governor's edict that these people quarantine. So I don't know if this means that we need to reach out to the state and have them send troopers down here to enforce the state edict, or if we could just simply lock the gate and all the residents who use the beach can walk down there and continue about their normal path. But I'm very concerned for the health and well-being of our residents, the people who voted to put us in office, that we're not looking out for them and instead looking out for the well-being of people from Massachusetts who really aren't even supposed to be here in the first place.
All right, Council President, if it's okay with you, I think we should move on to the next topic if you have any other updates on.
I think that that's pretty much it. I do think that Chris's point, you know, and this has been going on for a long time, that we're now, you know, in April, and it's the picture on both, you know, revenue for next year, not just our own local revenue, but revenue from the state is still pretty clouded, as well as the logistics of having public hearings and having elections. So we just need to pay really close attention to this, and we need to work with the rest of the communities to, you know, as much as we can, understanding that at this point, you know, the state government is pretty much all hands on deck with the health crisis, but the financial issue, you know, needs to get addressed sooner rather than later if we're going to be able to have some sort of operable budget for next year. So that is an issue. And the only other piece to that, and I think for our next council meeting that we'll be prepared to do this, is to look at our revenues for the remainder of this year, some of which are absolutely being impacted by the coronavirus, because we need to start and pay attention to how we finish out this year revenue wise as well.
Right.
And I think that that's all I have, unless, Mike, do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I just want to really just mention that everyone really has been working hard. Thank the staff that I've been dealing with, particularly the clerk's office and Chris's office and the new council president. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. We were all on these calls in the morning and the afternoon that really we're trying to get his update. Things are really moving quickly. We're trying to react as quickly as we possibly can, and the cooperation has been great. And I haven't heard we're moving forward on different fronts. Nancy, Madam Clerk, I haven't heard anything from the clerk's office that you're still operating okay. And I did send you a memo today regarding electronic notaries. I don't know if you saw that. That's the next thing that might be happening. But other than that, Council President, everything seems to be working well. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn.
I think Nancy wanted to say something.
Mike, I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry. I thought Nancy Mello was going to say something, but before
Nancy,
John made
did
the
you
motion.
want to say something?
No, that's fine.
No? Okay. Well, I'm going to say something on behalf of Nancy really quickly, which is that I would just like to give a shout out to our entire staff, town hall, senior center, police, fire, everybody, DPW. It's very trying and very challenging. If you heard the governor today, she said, you know, for a lot of people, it's a little scary to go to work. And our employees are, you know, they are doing a wonderful job. They're showing up, they're doing their work with smiles on their faces often. So I know a lot of us have not been at town hall very often because we're all supposed to be staying apart. But if you happen to be in there on business, or you know, happen to run into police or fire or DPW, I think they're doing a great job, and we appreciate it. So I have a motion to adjourn from John. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do I need a roll call on this, or can we do the?
The law requires a roll call.
It requires a roll call.
Yes.
Yes, John. Are you a
I was
yes?
going to vote yes. I thought we were
Okay,
doing-
John's a yes. Steve Clark,
Yes.
Joe Perry,
Yeah, the one good thing is meetings get over before 10 o'clock this way. Yes.
Nancy Driggs,
Yes.
Donna Cook,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
It's only because we're on essential town business,
That's okay.
There you go. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
stay
you, everyone.
safe.
Good night. Thank you.
Everybody stay safe.